let's throw it over to hockey now. So as we record this on Monday afternoon, the Vegas Golden Knights stole one from the Montreal Canadiens. Game 4, 2-1 overtime victory. That series is tied at 2. Game 5 on Tuesday night. Before yeah, before Game 5 tonight between the Islanders and the Lightning is when we're recording this pod. So we'll see the Islanders Lightning later on this evening. Let's talk about Montreal Vegas first. What a game that was. Just a crazy game, even though it was only 2-1. Crazy game.
Crazy last 23 minutes of hockey.
Yes.
The first 37 minutes were boring as hell. There's nothing happening. But you're right. The last 23 minutes were pretty epic. I'll give you that for sure.
Do we start with the officiating conversation? Are we gonna have? Should we start with that conversation? Because I feel like that's probably the biggest takeaway from that game was
not even just the game, but the playoffs as a whole. I think we'll go into that more later once the season's over, and hopefully when there's some sort of officiating reform. I
don't want to have. This isn't the time and place to have the big conversation right now. That is in the off season, but it's just last night was just so bad and so awful.
And it wasn't one sided; it was both ways.
I totally agree with you. Like I know people are saying like, oh, Chris Lee is trying to get Vegas into the into the finals or whatever. It's like, no, this was just bad officiating on both sides, and it kind of ruined the game last night. And I don't know how the NHL is going to fix it if they really want to fix it, but I just thought last night these refs were terrible, and I hope they don't call another playoff game again.
There's a point where you got to start calling stuff, and that's the whole. I think Ian, we've talked about it before, maybe off camera, off the record. But there's a certain, as officials, there's game management, and that's with any sport, with any even teams themselves, they have their own game management strategies. They have, and we'll talk about that when we talk about the Islanders in a bit, but. Refs have a game plan in a way, but it's very fluid and adaptive to what the game presents. And I was a referee for 6 years, so I have some basis here, and the refs may not necessarily fully agree with me, but they'll agree with me on some points. And playoffs are always officiated differently than the regular season, and that's, for whatever reason, that's just how it's been. There's too much stuff that gets let go, and that's what leads to all these scrums and all these, prime example, the Weber and I think it was Carrier incident, or
was it Carrier or Waugh?
No, what? Maybe it was Waugh. Anyways, it was one of the biggest.
One of the biggest.
Bottom 6 Vegas forwards. So, just quick example. This is just one that sticks out to me. So, Carrier, I'll just say Carrier because that's, I think,
sure.
Carrier hits Weber into the boards from behind. It's not malicious, but it's a boarding penalty because it's from behind. It's not CFB check from behind, which would be a game, but all it is. All it needs to be a 2-minute boarding. Ref standing right in the corner. Puck was right there. Boom. 2-minute boarding. There's nothing else that has to happen. That's it. That's the call. That is as textbook of a boarding call as there could ever be. Look it up in the rulebook if you have a rulebook at home. Look it up. Please tell me that is not a boarding call. I will argue with that. But that non-call, because Weber, let's not forget, Weber's a smart guy. Weber, at this point, he's 36. He knows what a penalty is.
He's no dummy.
No dummy. Sick Moose boy, by the way, from
good BC boy, yeah.
BC boy. He knows the game, and he knows that should be a penalty. So, and this, I think it was Kelly Rudy brought up a good point. He's like, oh, okay, so that's not a penalty, so I'll give you one back. Gives him a little shot from behind, is in the head. Yeah, should it be a penalty? Probably 2 minutes for roughing. That's what I would call that. So, the boarding gets called. That's the one penalty. But now that's not called, so then there's another one. That's roughing. Weber goes to the box. Weber's now pissed because his call wasn't called. Mm-hmm. That's ridiculous, right? And there's more too. So. And then Weber cross-checks Carrier from behind. That's another penalty. That's 2 minutes for cross-checking. And then Carrier turns around after being on the ground, slashes them Weber in the back of the legs. No call there. And then they start getting into like a little scrum. So you could give both of them roughing penalties. There were 0 calls of what I just described. And Ian, I think you probably remember this was last night, right? And this is it's such an issue with the league is that you call what you see and you call the first one before it gets out of hand, especially with fouls like stick infractions. That's a different conversation, but where it's physical contact penalties, that's the difference.
The problem is that there's two things for me where it's like if you don't call the first one, it just cycles through the rest of the game, and it's just like it's just gonna be rehashed. Like even in the if you don't call it in the first period, don't call it in the third period. And it's like baseball umpiring, where it's like if that's a strike in the first inning, that's a strike in the sixth inning. Like you can't just call that differently as the game goes on. But I agree with you with stick infractions. It's just when player safety. Like when the boarding or checking from behind or roughing or hits to the head, when none of that shit gets called, that's a problem because now player safety is being impacted here. And you can't obviously everybody knows when you get into playing hockey, you're playing a dangerous game. That's clear when you sign up. It's not the safest game. It's not playing basketball or whatever. But my point is, it's just
not really a good example, but anyways.
It's not really a good example, but my point is that hockey is a dangerous sport. It is a contact sport, but there is a line. Like there is a point where it becomes so dangerous that now nobody's safety can be protected, and the refs aren't looking out for anybody. And who the fuck cares? I'm just gonna hit anybody. It's like when you and I play Chell, and I'm just gonna hit everybody I can because the ref's not calling everything. Like the ref calls more in Chell than they do in real life in the playoffs.
Well, that's nothing for computers, so they
no, but I'm just saying, like,
you're right. Yeah.
You just call it. I don't, as a fan, I don't care because as a fan, I just want the player safety to be looked after and cared for, instead of for the fact that it's the playoffs, anything goes. Like,
not quite. There's a point, and again, who knows what the agenda is with the NHL, and we can speculate all day about that. But the fact is that doesn't matter. And the important part for the players is they can't worry about it. They can't let that get to them. You know what? Kill the penalty and move on. Like, or if you happen to get a power play, take advantage of it and move on. Like the Braden Point goalie interference. That was not goalie interference.
No,
Braden,
God, no.
There was no way of him being able to get out of the way of that. Pellick clearly pushed him in. Could Point have stopped?
I don't think so. You could try and make the argument. I don't think it's a good one.
Maybe, but it's going to be hard to make that argument. I'm not going to because I think he was pushed in. But anyways, what the Islanders did, they went on the power play and scored. So again, you can't control what the refs are going to do. So why are you going to start bitching and complaining about it? You can't, because you can't do anything. You gotta just keep playing the game, and hopefully you'll get the luck and get the bounces your way. And again, like to your point and my point as well, and it's it is shitty when the refereeing isn't fair, it isn't equal every way, but it's never going to be perfect. But there is, I will say, there is some reform needed. Hopefully this offseason they can take a step back and look and be like, okay, like here's some game management, here's some techniques, here's what we're gonna do. I don't know what they're gonna do, but I hope they do something.
That's been our conversation on officiating. We'll probably do more in the off season.
What we should get Tanner on. Good friend of the pod. He is an active official. He's done some above minor, so he's done some major midget. He's done some junior B, I believe, stuff.
He did a BCHL preseason game too, I believe.
Preseason game. We'll get him on the pod. He'll have some better insights on the officiating aspect of the games, and again, once we hopefully hear, knock on wood, some reform regarding officiating, we'll get him on, and
we'll talk about the actual games now. The teams winning games. Vegas won 2-1. Nicholas Waugh getting the OT winner. That was I don't want to say a must-win game for Vegas, but that's a really tough hole to climb out of, down 3-1 to a stingy Habs team. Thoughts on the Fleury-Leonard situation, because Leonard obviously starts game 4. Fleury gets a rest, and I don't know if they've announced who the goalie is for game 5. But just thoughts on start they haven't yet. Okay. Thoughts on Leonard starting game 5 or game 4.
Pierre DeBoer or Pete DeBoer is one gutsy motherfucker. That's one hell of a call. Fleury, there's league-wide respect for Marc-Andre Fleury. He could win the Vezina this year, but he is tired, and that's undoubtedly true. So the fact is, Leonard came in. I mean, the Golden Knights have 2 star goalies. Let's not count that out. But Leonard played great, and he did his job. He did what he needed to do, and he got the win. And but the Knights need to win that. Did they ever? Montreal, them and Vegas are built so similarly. It's kind of weird how it is. They got really good defense. They have Vezina caliber goalies or goalie in Montreal situation, and 4 lines that can all produce and score. And that's the key right there, is that all 4 lines can and will produce, which is the scary part. This matchup is so unique that way, is that who knows who's gonna win? I don't know at this point.
Pete DeBoer, it's like you've seen the movie Dodgeball, where it's like, that's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out. That's Pete DeBoer starting Robin Lehner in a critical playoff game. Yeah, and you mentioned it, 4 lines, like all that can score goals. Paul Byron getting the only Habs goal on a breakaway yesterday. Like,
who would have thought?
Yeah. Who would have thought? Not me.
Nick Suzuki, who was on property of the Golden Knights not too long, which is interesting. He was traded. He was a key piece in the Max Petrie deal that sent him to Vegas.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. It's the series is tied at 2. It's been, I think it's actually been the better series. We'll talk about the Islanders Lightning a bit, but I think storyline Montreal play is kind of boring, which is maybe an understatement. But Montreal's a little bit boring.
I don't know what you're seeing.
No, because Montreal plays like the slow grind it. Like Vegas is speed, and I think Montreal tries to slow that. Like Montreal.
Well, because they have to. That's the only way they're
gonna. But that's the only way. But like then all of a sudden, as like not out of nowhere, but as you saw last night, like Cole Caulfield like gives them just the random burst of energy out of nowhere in the 3rd period too. Like can just go and make something happen too, where Corey Perry looks like an old man on skates.
Yes, but I might be shedding a little bit of my Ducks bias here, but Corey Perry is a playoff hockey player. You cannot argue against that.
He is.
And who cares how slow he is? You look at Mark Stone. Mark Stone used to be a slow fuck, and he's an effective player, right? It's like, it's players like Stone, it's like players like Perry that again, Perry went to the Cup final with the Stars last year. It's not because of him that they're there, but he's a piece on the team that makes the team whole, and that's why I think Perry's one of the greatest performers, not ever, but right now, because of how I don't know how to explain this. It's like
he's clutch.
Not even that. He's just effective. It's a very lame term to use, but he is effective and he does his job well for what he's doing. And he's playing 4th line minutes, which in Montreal is it's like 3rd line minutes because every line plays so much.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, again, that's, to your point, and you're talking about, the four lines, and like, well, Perry's part of that, right? So,
who do you have winning the rest of this series? We got a best of 3 coming up here, 2 games in Vegas. We should know what the finals is by Saturday night. Who do you have winning the rest of the series?
Oh, I did pick Vegas at the start of the year to win the Cup, so I kind of have to stay with that. To be honest, I don't care who wins this series, and we'll talk about the other series in a bit, but I don't care who wins Montreal Vegas. I think both teams deserve to go. Montreal's played their way to be able to deserve it. In Vegas, they're my pick to win the cup. So, pick them. Vegas 7 games.
I'm taking Montreal because I said before the series on our last pod that I have Montreal in the upset in this series because I am rooting for Carey Price. I hope Carey Price, and it's kind of cool having Montreal, like the historic Canadian franchise.
It'd be the 25th. Be the
Yeah.
25th Stanley Cup would be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So
like
yeah.
I said, I don't care who wins, but I pick Vegas just for the show. Ian, you pick Montreal. It's a good pick.
Also, kudos to the Habs for they didn't win on Sunday, but still with Dominic Ducharme out because of COVID, he probably won't be back for the rest of this series. But
they'll have to make it like a final for him to come back.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of what I know. I just said they're a bit boring, but the contrast to that, this team has been through so much crap and has so much adversity that they've had to clear all season. And somehow, between injuries, COVID, the most difficult comeback of the postseason so far, and somehow the Montreal Canadiens
are in a series against the top
best of 3 series with the best team in the league.
That's facts.
So kudos to them.
And let's not forget, Montreal has like 17,000 less fans than the Golden Knights do.
Yeah, I think they have 3,500 over the last 2 games,
which is great. And don't get me wrong, that's great. Yeah. But comparatively speaking to teams in the United States, it's nothing.
It's not even close.
Not even close. No.
Speaking of teams with large fans in the stands, the Islanders of Tampa again, Game 5 Monday night. Ryan Pulock with the save of the century. Pulock with the save of the century in Game 5.
It plays like that define winning teams and championship teams. That I've got Pulock on my NHL 19 franchise team. He's my solid top 4, one of my top 4 defensemen. Pulock's a beast, and I mean, you and I both love the Islanders, but it's that play was huge, and man, I love watching games in Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum. That'd be one arena I'd love to go and watch a game.
It's too bad this is the last season that they're playing at the Coliseum.
But at least there are new arenas on Long Island, and it's gonna have the same, I think, atmosphere and feel. I hope, at least.
Probably something along those lines.
Compared to the Barclays Center. Barclays is a basketball arena.
Yeah, that's not a great fit for the Islanders. So at least they're getting their own arena, Queens, Long Island, in their territory. They're getting a new arena in their territory.
It's Central Long Island, which is
there. You go. So. But I was gonna say the save by Pulock in Game 4 to end it. First of all, I said heading into because the Islanders were up, I think 3-0. Before the start of the third period. And I think I said into the intermission, I said to my dad, like, if there's any team that can come back down 3-0, it's the Tampa Bay Lightning. They do such a great job at just scoring whenever they want to. And they almost got it. They got 2 quick goals early on in the third, and the Islanders shut them down. But that's also how good the Islanders are at just shutting down teams when they have a lead.
Well, and that's, I think I was going to talk about before about, game plans, and, I was talking about officials and they have a game management system. The Islanders have their own, and do they ever stick to their game plan well? They're just so sound fundamentally, and their defensive tactics. Barry Trotz is going to be a Hall of Fame coach. No, you can't, there's no arguing.
Yeah, I can't argue that.
So, and again, we won a cup with the Capitals, and he's hopefully going to win one with the Islanders too at some point. Maybe not this year, but at some point. So, they have a great system on Long Island, and I love the Island. I mean, so do you, but they're one of my go-to teams if the Ducks are out, and the Ducks are very out. So,
So who do you have winning that series, the Islanders or the Lightning?
Islanders in 6.
Islanders in 6. Ooh.
They're gonna punch their ticket to the Stanley Cup final on Long Island.
Damn it, that's a good call. I'll say just for difference, I'll say Islanders in 7. But I'll say like 6 is a really good play because if they were to win the Eastern Conference at home for Game 6, that would be pretty cool and pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's hockey.